Shalom, Yasharala, Shalom. Giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushua, Bahasham Rachak Wadash, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, whomever you may be, wherever you may be. Shalom, Yasharala, Shalom. All right, so I want to get into, I guess you can call it a lesson. But I was meditating. I think it was like yesterday or the day before yesterday, but I had my audio Bible playing, and so I was, going back through this particular account here, and I thought because I like doing these exhorting, lessons. It's been a while since I've done one, and so I thought, through the Spirit, that let's get into it. So basically, pretty much what I want to put forth, is our forefather Jacob. And bear with me because I went to go get my glasses. I gotta have them. But yeah, our forefather Jacob. All right, through what he went through. All right, there's three things that I want to point out. And I pray this be edifying, and exhorting. But basically, because Jacob had to endure certain things. Mostly dealing with his uncle Laban, right? So enduring certain hardships, having patience. He probably had anger at some point, but dealing with that anger, righteously and not, dealing with it carnally, being spiritual about it. And through that suffering and through that patience, even when you're done wrong and you've done nothing wrong, if you overcome these things, how in the end the Lord, will have you overcome these things and can bless you in the very end of it. And I thought, those things were very important, to point out because you can get all of those things through our forefathers' account. Let me go ahead and get on the screen. Oh yeah, you know what? And before then, because maybe there's someone new, maybe they're not understanding, because maybe they don't even know about the law, but maybe they're new and they do know about the law because brothers bring it out often when they speak about the MOTB, and that's dealing with the law, dealing with the all. When a servant doesn't want to leave his master, you can find that in Exodus 21, starting like verse 6, as well as Deuteronomy the 15th chapter. I believe it's starting like verse 12 or so, if I'm correct. But it's pretty much the same thing. And so if you wonder why that never happened to Jacob, is, understanding the time period. Right? Jacob is the forefather of the 12 sons who became known as the 12 tribes of Israel. One of those 12 being Joseph or Yahweh, his name would be in Hebrew. All right. And then you get that account, it transitions, towards the end of Genesis, towards Joseph's account. And then you start in Exodus chapter 1, where it transitions into Moses' account. All right. And, the Lord delivered us, out of Egypt through the, by way of Moses. Okay. So we didn't have those laws established until after we were brought up out of Egypt. Okay. And that's why, certain things are worded, do this and this, but don't do that because you are a stranger in this land, right? You can do this, but don't do this and don't do that, all right, towards your brother, because remember that you were strangers in this land. So certain things, for a certain reason, but they didn't come about to a certain time period. So, if you do know about, the all that brothers often speak about, then that's why you don't hear about, any of that type of account, which Jacob didn't want to stay. Okay. I mean, he eventually left. But, as a matter of fact, it might be good to bring it up because being part of that law, let's bounce back and we'll just grab Exodus. Okay. There's something to mention there now that I think of it, because it talks about 7 years, because Jacob basically labored for Laban 1 month and 14 years. 14 years and 1 month, because at the beginning, he actually labored, under him for a month. And then Laban came to him like, we're family. So let me break you off, some change here. All right. But we'll get into the account. Let's get this first. We'll start at, I guess we'll start right here. I said 6, but we'll start up at, as a matter of fact, let me see here. Actually, because we don't really need that part. What we need here is right here in verse 2. It says, if thou buy in Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, right? 6 years he shall serve. And in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. Okay. And originally, because this law wasn't set until afterwards, but dealing with the account originally, all right, Jacob, he really didn't want for anything. He was like, you know what? I want this chick right there. All right, that's your daughter. I want her. Okay. And so he labored for her for 7 years. And then he got tricked. And then he labored another 7 years. And initially, before those years, he had already labored a month before he even started getting pay. Okay. So he labored for 14 years and 1 month for one female. But he ended up with two because he got tricked. Right. And so, yeah. And it says here in the law, man, 6 years he shall serve, and in the seventh he shall go out free for nothing. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. You see? So this is why, certain things weren't mentioned around the account that we're about to go into, because this was before these particular laws were established, as things to follow by the Israelites. All right. It says, if his master have given him a wife, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. So basically, if he came in with the wife, that's his wife. They leave together. But if the wife that he gains, on his service, belong to the master that he worked for, that servant girl is the master's. So even if she bears him children and he wants to not stay, he wants to leave, he leaves without her and those children, because the servant girl belonged to the master. All right. And so those children, will belong to the master as well. All right. Now that is one of the few occasions, probably the only, or at least I could think off bat, where your mother actually matters. Because actually, well, I actually can't really say that, but you know, I mean, it's the law, all right. So we don't combat it, But yeah, where basically where a man, is kind of, it one particular count there where man doesn't matter, all right. It's under that, service there, because the servant girl belonged to the master, and so even if that's that man's children, but those children, even if it's because it's of his seed line, but they belong to the master, because the servant girl that became his wife in his captivity, his service, belong to the master, right? It says, and if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. All right. And we're going to start right there, because you can go and read this for yourself and go and get into all of that. I just wanted to pull out the particular verse 2, where it says, he shall serve 6 years and then go free. And he doesn't do that for us, okay? He works us to death, taxes us to death, and so on and so forth. All right. But with no further ado, let's go on over here to Genesis 29th chapter. And I'm going to try to get through this, because it's not often where I find a little bit of peace to myself when no one's around. And we also want to do this because I always think about new, believers, all right, maybe coming into the truth new. And so what we're going to do is read this in the NLT, which, simplifies it, all right, for, those that, because sometimes that KJV can be hard to understand when you don't understand the scriptures well, the style of writing. All right, so the NLT can simplify it. Now, NLT can be off in some areas, so you just have to be learned and disciplined, through the Spirit, to know when the NLT is not giving you something right. But most times it's pretty much on point, and it can simplify things. And so that's how we want to read into this account. All right. So Genesis 29:1 says, Jacob arrives at Padan Aram. It says, then Jacob hurried on, finally arriving in the land of the east. He says, as a matter of fact, let's go back one chapter, because in 27th chapter, let me see here. Yeah, let's start here in 28th chapter. Genesis 28:1. So Isaac called for Jacob, all right, blessed him and said, you must not marry any of these Canaanite women. All right, those Canaanites, were something, something nasty. Let's just say it like that. Instead, go at once to Padan Aram, to the house of your grandfather Bethuel, and marry one of your uncle Laban's daughters. Right. So it told him to go to the house of your grandfather Bethuel and marry one of your uncle Laban's daughters, which would basically be Uh, I guess you would say that would be like his first cousin. Okay, in modern day terms. All right. So it says, "May God Almighty bless you and give you many children, and may your descendants multiply and become many nations." All right. And though that just seems like a scripture, that's very heavy, because this is a blessing, right? From where? From his father Isaac, and said, "What? May God Almighty bless you and give you many children." See, when men of old talk like this back in the day, hey, that was a heavy thing. All right. Words of blessings, very heavy, very spiritually back in the ancient day. Not saying it's not now, but back in those days when men were a little bit more connected to the Holy Spirit, right? A little more connected to the Lord. Okay. Things like this were heavy. Okay. Because these blessings were true indeed. They would come to pass. They said, we're gonna like this, they're gonna bless you to multiply your cattle. Man, you would have been blessed in all types of cattle, all right? You would have most definitely been blessed. If you blessed, they've said it, I don't know, let you be blessed in land. You would have got a whole lot of land, right? It would have came to pass, man. Those blessings like this, word of mouth blessings like this, very heavy back in the ancient days, man. It says, "And your descendants multiply and become many nations." And that's where you get the 12 tribes of Israel, who are today known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Continuing on, it says, "May God pass on to you and your descendants the blessings he promised to Abraham." Okay, which one of those things was a land to ourselves, right? Which was formerly known as the land of Canaan. Okay, it says, and that also the same, similar what he just said, man, multiplying, as a multitude. Okay, it says, "May you own this land where you are now living as a foreigner, for God gave this land to Abraham." You see, the land of the Canaanites, which today, you would get, in modern day terms, you would get the state of Israel, West Bank, Gaza, southern portions of Syria, Lebanon, and like western portions of Jordan. All right, those areas there, belong to the Israelites, because right below that Jordan area, or particular portion of Jordan area, that was like Moab's land. So there was a portion there on the opposite side, like on the east, like the southeast side of the Jordan, where you would have like Moab's land, not too far off from there. So everything above that was Israelite, land. All right, Jerusalem, Gilead, so on and so forth, all these different places, Bethlehem. Okay, but you have heathens occupying lands today. All right, so it says, "So Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram to stay with his uncle Laban, his mother's brother, the son of Bethuel, the Aramean." All right, which shows you that, Israelites, not only were they scattered, but you had some that were under, the term of Aramean. Okay. But anyways, it says, "Esau knew that his father Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him to Padan Aram to find a wife." All right. It says, "And that he had warned Jacob, 'You must not marry a Canaanite woman.' He also knew that Jacob had obeyed his parents and gone to Padan Aram. It was now very clear to Esau that his father did not like the local Canaanite women. So Esau visited his uncle Ishmael's family and married one of Ishmael's daughters." All right. Ishmael came forth from Abraham. It says, in addition to the wives he already had. His new wife's name was Mahalath. She was the sister of Nebaioth, how do you pronounce it? And the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son. All right. Now it says Jacob's dream at Bethel. He says, "Meanwhile, Jacob left Beersheba and traveled toward Haran. At sundown, he arrived at a man. You know what? I don't have it. It'd be nice if I had a split screen right now. I used to be able to do it on my last phone that I had, but for some reason this one doesn't have the split screen. But what I was thinking about was being able to pull up a map. But it's okay. If that be your desire, you could look up the map. And that's one thing about the Bible, right? For people that don't believe it's real, well, it just shows you that, how they say, the dumb as a box of rocks or something like that, whatever the saying goes. But yeah, look up these places from the Bible, and you'll see their actual places on this earth. Now, in some instances, you may have to look up, type in something like modern day such and such, because a lot of names have been changed. So you have to look up the modern day. Where is modern day such and such? And it'll go show you like, oh, wait, it's the same place. Yeah, because these places exist because the Bible is real. These accounts are real, right? This is your history. It says, at sundown, he arrived at a good place to set up camp and stopped there for the night. Jacob found a stone to rest his head against and lay down to sleep. As he slept, he dreamed of a stairway that reached from the earth up to heaven, and he saw the angels of God going up and down the stairway. All right, so he had a dream. It's a vision there. It says, at the top of the stairway stood Yahweh, and he said, I am the Lord Yahweh, the power of your grandfather Abraham, and the God of your father Isaac. The ground you are lying on belongs to you. I am giving it to you and your descendants. So basically, it's the same promise, but it was reassured, all right, to the next generation of that seed line, which was Jacob, Abraham to Isaac to Jacob. So it was reassured to Jacob when he saw, as people call Jacob's ladder, right? It says your descendants will be as numerous as the dust of the earth. This is something that was told to all three of them, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You be numerous as the dust of the earth, the sand of the sea, and as the stars of heaven, for a multitude. Okay? Basically saying how we will be fruitful and multiply. All right? So it says they will spread out in all directions. And when you get to the account of Egypt in Exodus chapter 1, it talks about that great multiplying and put fear upon the Egyptians because they were like, man, they won't stop multiplying. Okay? They even try to do away and kill babies and stuff like that. Stop the midwives from delivering the Israelite babies and all these different things. And they were like, man, if they continue growing and we get into war with another nation, they may join up with the other nation, outnumber, overpower us, and get their freedom. So they were very afraid of the Israelites, man, because we were multiplying, man. All right. It says they will spread out in all directions, to the west and the east, to the north and the south. And all the families of the earth will be blessed through you and your descendants, right? Through you and those 12 tribes of Israel. Because everywhere the Israelites are, the blessings of the Lord will be upon them. All right. And of course, to the point that we fell under the curses. But, and that's something we're about to experience here, dealing with Jacob. Okay. So remember that we read that, right? It says, and all the families of the earth will be blessed through you and your descendants. Now, of course, Laban is his family, but watch what happens while Jacob is there. So it says, what's more, I am with you, and I will protect you wherever you go. One day I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have finished giving you everything I have promised you. Okay? And ultimately, once again, to mention Exodus, he brought us out of Egypt, went around the wilderness, so on and so forth. Eventually, we were under the campaigns of Joshua. All right? And then we got our lands. All right? When we officially took those lands for ourselves was under the campaigns of Joshua. So it says, then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord Yahweh is in this place, and I wasn't even aware of it. But he was also afraid and said, what an awesome place this is. It is none other than the house of God, the very gateway to heaven. The next morning, Jacob got up very early. He took the stone he had rested his head against, and he set it upright as a memorial pillar. Then he poured olive oil over it. All right. And those oils, probably had a very good scent back then, different ways we made the oils. But anyways, all right. It says he named that place Bethel, which means house of God. I believe that's Bethel. I think it's Bayath Allah, if I'm correct. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get it here. I think it's Bayath Allah. Bayath meaning, of course, house, and Allah meaning, going back to meaning power or God. All right, house of God. I'm looking for interlinear. Let's see if we can get that up there. I'm not sure. I want to make sure. Let me see if I can see it down here. Okay, yep, there it is right there. If you can see it, if you can read that, it reads from right to left. All right, as a matter of fact, I'll give you like this. That's Bayath that you read right here, and that's Allah. Bayath Allah. Bethel, Bayath Allah, house of God, because Allah goes back to meaning God, which means power. So house of God. All right, Bayath Allah. Okay, so Bethel, Bayath Allah. So Tawara, Yahbashma. He named that place Bethel, Bayath Allah, which means house of God, although it was previously called Luz. And like I said before, all right, look some of these names up, man. All right, these places, and you can go get a a very vivid imagination sparked up there from where these ancestors were, where they traveled to, okay, where this place was, where that place was. They were close here, they were near there. All right, look some of these names up. 28 and 20. It says, Then Jacob made this vow. If God will indeed be with me and protect me on this journey, and if he will provide me with food and clothing, and if I return safely to my father's home, then Yahweh will certainly be my God. And notice what he asked for, man. He asked for the most basic necessities, man. All I need is some food and clothing, right? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things shall be added unto you. That's all he needed was the basic things, man. All right? He didn't ask for everything else. This reminds me of King Solomon, man. He asked for wisdom to guide the people properly. And he got everything else because he asked for a spiritual thing and not a carnal thing. It says, and this memorial, and I don't like how it's worded there. It says, and then the Lord will certainly be my God. But anyways, it says, and this memorial pillar I have set up will become a place for worshiping God the highest, and I will present to the Most High a tenth of everything he gives me. That's called tithes. Right? So let's move on to the next chapter. All right, it says Jacob, or Yaquab is his name is in the Hebrew, if you didn't know. Yaquab, which means supplanter. Okay, his real name is Yaquab, but as the world knows it, Jacob. Jacob arrives at Padan Aram. Then Jacob hurried on, finally arriving in the land of the east. And if this is a boring lesson, then I understand because we know some seek entertainment, some seek zero wisdom, but you know how it is, man. Hey, but it's all through the spirit. Like I said, it's exhorting. It's a good read here, all right, because we want to get in the habit of reading for ourselves, but this is a very exhorting account here, dealing with our forefather Jacob, and the spirit was on me to go into it, so we're going to do it. So it is what it is, right? So if it bores you, all right, go find some action. Then Jacob hurried on, finally arriving in the land of the east. He saw well in the distance 3 flocks of sheep and goats lay in an open field beside it, waiting to be watered, but a heavy stone covered the mouth of the well. It was the custom there to wait for all the flocks to arrive before removing the stone and watering the animals. Afterward, the stone would be placed back over the mouth of the well. So, in other words, they had a particular process, and giving drink to the flock. It says Jacob went over to the shepherds and asked, "Where are you from, my friends?" "We are from Haran," they answered. "Do you know a man there named Laban, the grandson of Nahor?" He asked. "Yes, we do," they replied. "Is he doing well?" Jacob asked. "Yes, he's well," they answered. "Look, here comes his daughter Rachel with the flock now." Jacob said, "Look, it's still broad daylight, too early to round up the animals. Why don't you water the sheep and goats so they can get back out to pasture?" All right, so it shows you he already had a little wisdom of what he was doing out there in the fields. It says, "We can't water the animals until all the flocks have arrived," they replied. Then the shepherds moved the stone from the mouth of the well, and we water all the sheep and goats, which is what we just read up above. Jacob was still talking with them when Rachel arrived with her father's flock, for she was a shepherd. All right. So it says, so basically she understood, a little bit about the fields as well. Unlike, the average modern day woman today, she doesn't know anything pertaining to being a woman. I don't think the average woman even knows that the word woman means, I think, like female servant or servant girl or something like that, female servant. Okay. They barely know how to cook. Houses be dirty as hell. They don't know how to sew. They nag a man instead of pleasing a man. They don't even know how to please a man. Okay. Because everything is about me, and being seen. They don't have any really skillful qualities. What they deem skillful qualities is going to school and getting some degree and having some career set. All right, that's helpful, but it's not exactly skillful. All right, skillful like in the ancient days, men and women both would have skills. All right, and not just certain qualities. All right, which some of those skills are the same as qualities, right? Having different what's the word I'm looking for? Knowledge of different crafts under your belt. Okay, but I think you understand what I was trying to say though. All right, it says, and because I'm not the best my words in my mouth. And because Rachel was his cousin, all right, it says Jacob was still talking with them when Rachel arrived with her father's flock, for she was a shepherd. And because Rachel was his cousin, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and because the sheep and goats belonged to his uncle Laban, Jacob went over to the well and moved the stone from his mouth and watered his uncle's flock. It's like, hey, it's my uncle right here, son. I got this. That's love. It's all love, huh? Then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. Now, this wasn't a kiss on the lips, all right? Something, just a regular kiss, all right? Like on the cheek or whatever, okay? A brotherly kiss, if as the term goes, but, it can be sisterly as well. He didn't exactly kiss her on the lips. This was probably like a tight hug and a kiss on the cheek, happy to see one another, okay? It says he explained to Rachel that he was her cousin on her father's side, the son of her aunt Rebecca. So Rachel quickly ran and told her father Laban. Right? She was excited. They were excited to see one another. And what's the next portion says? It says the next portion says Jacob marries Leah and Rachel. This is what we talked about. He labeled 14 years for one woman. Really, what he did, 14 years for one woman. Because what happened was he was tricked. And so he had to labor another 7 years to get the one that he wanted. But let's read. It says, as soon as Laban heard that his nephew Jacob had arrived, he ran out to meet him. He embraced and kissed him. You see, same kiss, right? So clearly they didn't kiss on the lips. Okay? This is just a brotherly greeting, all right? He embraced and kissed him and brought him home. When Jacob had told him his story, Laban explained, you really are my own flesh and blood. All right? So he basically told him what he had been through, things he was dealing with, all right? So he said, after Jacob had stayed with Laban for about a month, Laban said to him, you shouldn't work for me without pay just because we are relatives. Tell me how much your wages should be. This is what we mentioned, all right? So 1 month he had already labored, helping out his uncle just out of love. And he came, after a month, like, you know what? You're my nephew, your family. Well, I shouldn't have you working for free. I'm going to pay you, man. Okay? But and name your wages, right? Not only am I going to pay you, but you name your wages. What do you want? Tell me what. All right? Now, Laban had 2 daughters. The older daughter was named Leah, and the younger one was Rachel. There was no sparkle in Leah's eyes, but Rachel had a beautiful figure and a lovely face. All right? That's what they would call today a dime piece, right? Since Jacob was in love with Rachel, he told her father, I'll work for you for 7 years if you'll give me Rachel, your younger daughter, as my wife. Agreed, Laban replied. I'd rather give her to you than to anyone else. Stay and work with me. Because he was family, okay? And they were all happy to see one another. Verse 20 says, so Jacob worked 7 years to pay for Rachel. He labored 7 years for a female because he really loved her. All right? It says, but his love for her was so strong that it seemed to him but a few days. All right? It seemed to him, that's how much he was in love with her, man. And it seemed to him, who's that? Tom Cruise, Vanilla Sky. Okay? All right? It seemed to him but a few days, man. Finally, the time came for him to marry her. I have fulfilled my agreement, Jacob said to Laban. Now give me my wife so I can sleep with her. Why does he say that? Because that's how you consummate a marriage. A woman may belong to you, but until you actually go in unto her, in other words, have sex with her, okay, you haven't fully solidified, the marriage, okay, and when that went down, she in ancient days she would have been a virgin, so there would be something called the token of her virginity, which her father would keep to show that she was, for one, she would bleed out on that particular cloth or whatever to show that she was a virgin when she was given away, and two, her father would keep it as evidence, okay, as proof, more so. All right. So we know that she was probably a virgin, even though it doesn't go into that. But anyways, now give me my wife so I can sleep with her. So Laban invited everyone in the neighborhood and prepared a wedding feast. All right, watch this now. You got to pay attention. It says, but that night when it was dark, Laban took Leah to Jacob and he slept with her. So when he thought he was consummating his marriage with the one he labored for 7 years, even though his name was supplanter or mean supplanter, he actually got supplanted. He was done wrong. He was given the older daughter who wasn't so beautiful. All right. Men were not going to run up and want the older daughter. All right. Like he did when he saw Rachel. All right. She was what they would call a baddie, right? A hottie. Okay. A 10, a dime piece. But the older sister, she wasn't all that. She was probably average at best. Okay. 5 maybe. Maybe 6. We don't know because she might have had a nice figure. All right. But anyways, he was tricked. But that night, when it was dark, Laban took Leah to Jacob and slept with her. Laban had given Leah a servant, Zilpah, to be her maid. All right. So, he gave one of his servants to his daughter, Leah, whose name was Zilpah, to be her maid, right? Basically, to be her servant. But when Jacob woke up in the morning, it was Leah. What have you done to me? Jacob raged at Laban. I worked 7 years for Rachel. Why have you tricked me? And I know it had to hurt, man. It had to hurt, man. Because you worked 7 years. You already worked 1 month for free. All right. And then he came to you and said, you shouldn't work for me free because we're family. So name your wages. And he was like, my wages are going to be your daughter. I want your younger daughter. If you give me your younger daughter, I'll work 7 years for her. And he worked, all right, out of the goodness of his heart. In sincerity, he was doing the right thing. Keep it to his word. I will work 7 years for your younger daughter if you would have me do that. And they both agreed. And then Uncle Laban tricked him, man. He did him dirty. I know that hurt, man. Okay. It says, it's not our custom here to marry off a younger daughter ahead of the firstborn, Laban replied. Now, he could have very well been lying when he said that. And even if he was telling the truth, don't you think he should have told that to Jacob before he okayed the 7-year deal? So either way, it was dirty. It was underhanded, man. But wait until the bridal week is over. Then we'll give you Rachel too, provided you promise to work another 7 years for me. Slow down and dirty, man. But we'll get down to why he did it. It's not justified why he did it. But as we go further into the account, we understand why he did it. Okay? But he definitely wasn't justified why. So Jacob agreed to work 7 more years. All right? Now he's already worked for Laban for free for 7 years and 1 month. And he's going to work a whole nother 7 years to get what he actually wanted in the first place, which is Rachel, the beautiful daughter. So Jacob agreed to work 7 more years. A week after Jacob had married Leah, Laban gave him Rachel too. Right? You see, notice it says a week after Jacob married Leah, because the true consummation of marriage was having sex. And then, you can always have a ceremony afterwards, right? With natural custom. But the true joining together was them having sex. And the ceremony was just, festivities. All right. Joy over them two coming together. Just, Snapple fact side note. Laban gave him Rachel too. All right. It says Laban gave Rachel a servant, Bilhah, to be her maid. All right. So we now have Jacob and now his first wife, Leah. All right. Whose servant was named Zilpah. And then you have Rachel, whose servant was named Bilhah. All right. So it says, so Jacob, and that's a cold cut to those out there that think one woman belongs to one man. Nah, man. Man can have as many women as he wants, but to be more expedient, as many as he can afford. Okay. Because you don't want to, be going over your limits there. And in these latter days that we're living in real time, all right, it's expedient to just do whatever you're dealing with. Don't be trying to add more. It's expedient to just not try to do too much. All right, if you got a couple of them things, all right, be okay with that. All right, because even the scriptures tell you to be as if you had no wife. Now, I mean, you just neglect her or whatever the case may be. But given the time period we're living into, women can be a distraction, man. So You deal here dealing with 5 women, and you may get fully distracted, man. Whether it be from the ministry or something in Jacob's trouble, whatever case may be. All right, that's not unlawful, but it's definitely not expedient right now. Okay, but back to ancient time periods, just to make the point. All right, it was natural, man. It's still natural now, but it's just the society we live in, and really this world today. Period. In some places, because not all places on this earth, but some places where, you know, people just think there's one man and one wife, and especially in only in America, as I always say, a woman thinks that one man belongs to you, and don't nothing belong to you. You belong to that man. He's Lord over you. You belong to one man, and if he wants to get another wife, well, whether you like it or not, it don't matter. Okay, because that's his right as an Israelite. Okay, and I mean that to rhyme out, his right as an Israelite. So Jacob slept with Rachel too, and he loved her much more than Leah. He then stayed and because that's what he worked for in the first place. He then stayed and worked for Laban the additional 7 years. So 14 years and 1 month, man, did he work. And 14 of those years was specifically for Rachel alone. All right. He got Leah out of it, but he didn't want Leah. He wanted Rachel. So he pretty much labored 14 years for Rachel. And, and he ended up with Leah. But it all benefited him in the end because ultimately he ended up with 2 wives and each had 2 servant girls. And then more. We're not going to speak on it. We're going to let the scriptures bring it out. So it says Jacob's many children. Now, when Yahweh saw that Leah was unloved, he enabled her to have children, but Rachel could not conceive because at the end of the day, all right, it still was his wife. All right. She may not have been that attractive. All right. He may not have had that kind of love for her. Okay. But at the end of the day, it still was his wife. And it was his first wife, not only. Okay. So it says he enabled her to have children, but Rachel could not conceive. So which actually, if you kind of look at it spiritually, the Lord is putting a balance on Jacob. All right. And as far as his love for his wives, man, he's putting a balance on. Okay. You love Rachel, all right, so much that you really, you pay no attention to Leah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it that Leah is the one to give you these children. And, and that's going to balance out all that love that's all on Rachel and not to Leah. Children are going to balance that out. In many ways, it says, so Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben. All right. And for she said, the Lord Yahweh has noticed my misery, and now my husband will love me. See? Reuben the firstborn. All right. One of the so-called Native American tribes, right? Reuben, I believe it's Laban in the Hebrew. It says she soon became pregnant again and gave birth to another son. All right. Number 2, she named him Simeon. I believe that's Samayawan in the Hebrew. It says, for she said, Yahweh heard that I was unloved and has given me another son. You see how the Lord is balancing things out? 2 sons for not being loved. Okay. Then she became pregnant a 3rd time and gave birth to another son. She named him Levi, right, Loya. For she said, surely this time my husband will feel affection for me, since I have given him 3 sons. All right. Once again, Leah became pregnant and gave birth to another son. She named him Yahweh, Judah. For she said, now I will praise Yahweh. And then she stopped having children. All right. So you see how the Lord balanced that situation out there? All right. And the Lord likes a just balance. Gave her 4 children because she wasn't loved. Wasn't that he wasn't, smashing her or whatever. He was definitely doing that. Otherwise, she wouldn't be getting pregnant, right? He was smashing her, but he didn't love her. Right? It was his wife, and it was, his pleasure. And he had 2 women, all right? Maybe he was pleased by hitting her sometimes, then pleased by hitting her sometimes. Just that Rachel wasn't getting pregnant. But Leah was, and she had 4 back-to-back, balancing Jacob's love out. All right? So let's continue on to the next chapter. Chapter 30. I'll get my screen a second. There we go. Genesis 30 and 1. When Rachel saw, right, he said, when Rachel saw that she wasn't having any children for Jacob, she became jealous of her sister. She pleaded with Jacob, give me children or I'll die. Which wasn't up to him. It's up to the Lord, man, to have someone bear seed. Then Jacob became furious with Rachel Am I God? You see, am I God? He asked. He's the one who has kept you from having children. Then Rachel told him, take my maid Bilhah and sleep with her. She will bear children for me, and through her, I can have a family too. All right? Because that's what the average woman, in the back, regardless of how much she talks about her job and her career. Oh, I can do fine all by myself. I can just be alone. I can have a good job and go home and be alone myself. I'm okay with that. Nah, man. As a woman, a real woman, in the back of their mind, they always want to be wives and they always want to have children, man. If she's a real woman, okay. And the scriptures talk about her approach, okay. Sometimes being, like when you've gotten up in age and you haven't had children yet, you're not a wife, you don't have children. That was a shameful thing, all right, back in the ancient days. It's shameful now, but we just can't tell because of what? Today's society, right? It says, then Rachel told him, take my maid Bilhah and sleep with her. She will bear children for me, and through her I can have a family too. So Rachel gave her servant Bilhah to Jacob as a wife, and he slept with her. Bilhah became pregnant and presented him with a son. Rachel named him Dan, for she said, God has vindicated me. He has heard my request and given me a son. Then Bilhah became pregnant again and gave Jacob a second son. So, he went from, smashing his two wives to smashing two wives and a maidservant. So now he's having sex with three women. But I thought that was off. Even the phone rang in the background, chimed in the background. Right? And Bilhah became pregnant again and gave Jacob a second son. Rachel named him Naphtali, for she said, I have struggled hard with my sister and I'm winning. All right, she's made it a competition because she got all the love, but her older sister got all the children. And now through her servant, her maid, she's now bearing children. Because remember it said up above, she was jealous of her sister. Because what? She's a woman. She's already a wife. But what more does a wife want when she's married to a man? She wants children at some point. All right? I have struggled hard with my sister and I'm winning. In which she doesn't have more children than her, but she says she's winning because she not only has children, she may have less children, but she now has children, and she has the love of Jacob, right? Meanwhile, Leah realized that she wasn't getting pregnant anymore. So she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife, right? Because remember, we read that she stopped having children after the fourth one, right? So she was like, you know what, Zilpah, you're gonna continue for me. And gave her to Jacob as a wife. Soon, Zilpah presented him with a son. So now he's doing what? He's smashing four women. You see? Not unlawful at all. You see? Not unlawful at all. And furthermore, this is how the 12 tribes of Israel came about. So think about that for a minute for those that think one man, one wife. Well, how did you get here? You come from one of those tribes. And these are four different women, right? Soon Zilpah presented him with a son. Leah named him Gad, all right? For she said, how fortunate I am. Then Zilpah gave Jacob a second son. And Leah named him Asher. For she said, what joy is mine. Now the other women will celebrate with me. One day during the wheat harvest, Reuben found some mandrakes growing in a field and brought them to his mother, Leah. So obviously this is a time jump here because if these were little babies, and we're not sure exactly how old he was at this point, because Reuben is the firstborn, but we know this is clearly a time jump because ain't no infant running around. Okay? So, it just took a little common sense right there, man. All right. One day during the wheat harvest, Reuben found some mandrakes growing in a field and brought them to his mother, Leah. Rachel begged Leah, please give me some of your son's mandrakes. Right? Rachel begged Leah, please give me some of your son's mandrakes. But Leah angrily replied, wasn't it enough that you stole my husband? Now will you steal my son's mandrakes too? Which is so awkward, her saying that, because he labored 14 years for Rachel. Rachel was the one that had all his love, right? But you have to think about it. Reason why she's saying that is because she became the first wife. Jacob was tricked, but either way, he consummated the marriage. So she became his first wife. But once again, Rachel had all his love. So see, and then she went on with her maidservant to have children through her maidservant, right? So, but check the counter as we go on. It says, Rachel answered, I will let Jacob sleep with you tonight if you give me some of the mandrakes. Okay, so it's almost like I'm not saying it's that, but it almost sounds like like they're passing him around. All right, but one thing I like to point out reading this, what do you notice between these two women? Is that neither of them is arguing that, oh, he's just my man. Even though she said it, okay, she understands that both of them are, wives to him. But what she was referring to more so is the love of him. And then she went on to have children. So now she not only she has his love, but she also has children. Okay? So she wasn't saying that, oh, this is my man only. Nah, man. That's not what she was saying, man. She knew better than that. So they weren't arguing over him like a modern day woman. Oh, yeah, I went through your phone. You was cheating. Get out my car. Get out my car. I don't want to hear it. No, step. Get the move. Get out my car. You know how it go, man. Right? We not having that. All right? Pennies in a bunch because you got another chick on the side, man. There are some chicks out there who just, they go along with it. But a lot of those, and I ain't trying to be funny, they just be some bobbleheads, just be, remedial as hell, man. Anyways, this is something, I'm just telling the truth, man. You've been around longer than me, probably. Somebody out there listening, you've probably been around longer than me. I ain't lying. So that evening, as Jacob was coming home from the fields, Leah went out to meet him. Right? So it says, you must come and sleep with me tonight, she said. I have paid for you with some mandrakes that my son found. So that night he slept with Leah. And God answered Leah's prayers. She became pregnant again and gave birth to a fifth son for Jacob. So this is ultimately what? Fulfilled by the will of the Lord. Excuse me. The Lord set it up that way to bring forth what? A fifth son. She named him Issachar. Right? The so-called Mexicans, Issachar. For she said, God has rewarded me for giving my servant to my husband as a wife. All right. It says God has rewarded me for giving my servant to my husband as a wife. All right. So it says, then Leah became pregnant again and gave birth to a sixth son for Jacob. She named him Zebulun. I believe this is a Balawan or something like that in Hebrew. She named him Zebulun, for she said, God have given me a good reward. Now my husband will treat me with respect, for I have given him 6 sons. You see how she's still hanging on that love, right? Because she wasn't love. She wasn't the cutest thing in the bunch. She may have been down, all right? Like you can find that today, a down chick. But she's not all that attractive, all right? A plain Jane, right? But she's down for you, okay? But anyways, it says, later she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. All right. Then God remembered Rachel's plight and answered her prayers by enabling her to have children. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. God has removed my disgrace, she said. And she named him Joseph, for she said, may Yahweh add yet another son to my family. All right. Yahweh Sah. That's what his name means. Yahweh has added, or something like that. Yahweh adds, or something like that. It says Jacob's wealth was my favorite ancestor right there, Joseph. Yahweh. Jacob's wealth increases. Soon after Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, please release me so I can go home to my own country. Right? Jacob's wealth increases. Check the headline, the subtitle there, subheading. It says, let me take my wives and children, for I have earned them by serving you. And this is what I mentioned before, going into the laws, right? Deuteronomy 15 and Exodus 21, okay? The reason why Jacob didn't exactly go through those things written there in the law, because those laws came afterward, right? So it should be very clear there. It says, let me take my wives and children, for I have earned them by serving you, and let me be on my way. You certainly know how hard I have worked for you. Yeah, 14 years and 1 month. But, just according to the women alone, 14 years. But he did work a month prior to that. Okay? That's why I always count it. Because all those years were for free labor, man. 14 years and 1 month of free labor for two women. But the Lord had everything planned out. He ended up with 4 women bearing him children. And he's going to end up with a lot of substance. But let's continue through the account, right? It says, please listen to me. Laban replied, I have become wealthy for the Lord Yahweh has blessed me because of you. You see? Remember we talked about that earlier? All right. While Laban did what he did, okay, had him around as long as he had him around, because he understood. He saw it happening. I'm being blessed because Jacob is around. Like, things are increasing here. I'm doing better. I was all right before, but I'm doing way better than I was before with Jacob being around. I need to keep him around. Please listen to me, Laban replied. I have become wealthy, for Yahweh has blessed me because of you. Tell me how much I owe you. Whatever it is, I'll pay it. It says, Jacob replied, you know how hard I work for you, and how your flocks and herds have grown under my care. You see, he was okay before, but they've grown under Jacob's care. You had little indeed before. There it is right there. You see, he was okay. He wasn't hurting. He was okay. But now he's booming. All right. You had little indeed before it came, but your wealth has increased enormously, showing you that he was tremendously blessed by Jacob being there, right? It says your wealth has increased enormously. And what was he talking about though? Cattle. It doesn't mention the land exactly, but I'm pretty sure he had a good amount of land. But it's pretty much going to mention directly his cattle, man. Because that was true wealth, man. True substance back in the days. Land and cattle. Okay? Even certain dealings with, your daughters. Giving her to the right family. Okay? You can join yourself with a very good family. All right? Giving your daughter away to the right man. See? Well, not today. A woman just thinks she's entitled to having nothing at all. But getting everything. All right? But anyways. It says, Yahweh has blessed you through everything I've done. But now, what about me? When can I start providing for my own family? Yeah, 14 years and 1 month. And he has a bunch of children. Yeah, he needs that. He needs a way to provide for himself by himself. And not through, a Laban and living under him and serving under him. As a man, him just as a man, he wants to provide, for his own family. All right. And not second-handedly, because he is, but he's doing it second-handedly because it's under Laban. It says, what wages do you want? Laban asked again. Jacob replied, don't give me anything. Just do this one thing. Is that name going into play? Supplanter. Yaiquab at his best right here. And he says, don't give me anything. Just do this one thing, and I'll continue to tend and watch over your flocks. And he really ultimately, he didn't even have that mindset when he said this, right? It was the Lord that intervened and really, the words that Jacob spoke, the Lord really brought those words to life, tremendously. Okay, but watch it. It says, let me inspect your flocks today and remove all the sheep and goats that are speckled or spotted. He was humble, man. He wasn't trying to take them for everything he had. He just wanted to get, his worth, all right, which would have been smaller. In his mind, what he was asking for would have been way smaller than the substance that Laban had, all right, that humbleness, him being genuine, all right, him suffering what he had to suffer, because I know he was hurt when he got tricked. He labored 14 years for free and 1 extra month before that for free, right? All these things he's had to experience just to get one woman, man. Okay? And he was still humble. He was still patient with his uncle. Watch what the Lord does for him. Let me inspect your flocks today and remove all the sheep and goats that are speckled or spotted, all right? All the sheep and goats that are speckled or spotted, along with all the black sheep. Give me these to me as my wages. So basically, all the sheep that are all brown or all gray or all white or whatever, okay, those will be Laban's. Any ones that have this speckled or spotted or black, you know, those would be Jacob's. Okay. So it says, in the future, when you check on the animals you have given me as my wages, you will see that I have been honest. Yeah, because he put a distinction between the ones that were going to be his and the ones that were going to be his uncle's, right? So that way you'll see, like, look, what I asked for is what I took, because all you have to do is look at the speckled, spotted blacks. Those are mine, as we agreed, and these are yours. So all you got to do, you look over there in my flock, and there's no fully one tone, all right? Any one tone flock over here, all right, of one color. You see there, because you'll know that those are yours. And then I try to get you. I try to steal a couple here and there. You're gonna know, all right? So it says, you'll see that I have been honest. If you find in my flock any goats without speckles or spots, or any sheep that are not black, you will know that I have stolen them from you. See? So all the sheep and goats, all right, it will solidify what's going to be Laban's and what's going to be Jacob's. All right. So it says, all right, Laban replied, it will be as you say. Agreed. All right. And that was an agreement before the Lord, though it wasn't, as they came into it, like, covenant wise, like, say, like a good example, David and oh man, what's his name? I forget his name. Man, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. Man, but you know what I'm talking about. Man, I just have it on the tip of my tongue. Okay, Saul's son, and really loved David. Okay, they made verbal agreements like that. This wasn't in the same sense, but it was still agreed. This agreed as in a truce. This is going to be what it's going to be. All right. So someone is breaking this. The Lord's going to see it. But anyways, all right, Laban replied, it will be as you say. But that very day, Laban went out and removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, all the female goats that were speckled and spotted or had white patches, and all the black sheep. He placed them in the care of his own sons, who took them a 3 days journey from where Jacob was. Meanwhile, Jacob stayed and cared for the rest of Laban's flock, right? So Jacob didn't even put his hands on any of them, all right? Laban separated them. Check what's going on now. It says, then Jacob took some fresh branches from poplar, almond, and plane trees and peeled off strips of bark, making white streaks on them. Then he placed these peeled branches in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink, for that was where they made it. And when they made it in front of the white streaked branches, they gave birth to young that were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Is that not the Lord, man? The Lord put the spirit on Jacob to do that. He didn't know what the hell he was doing, man. He was just doing some stuff, right? He's probably doing something that was natural. But the Lord took that natural situation, unknown to Jacob, and look what happened, man. And when they made it in front of the white streaked branches, they gave birth to young that were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Jacob separated those lambs from Laban's flock, and at mating time, he turned the flock to face Laban's animals that were streaked or black. This is how he built his own flock instead of increasing Laban's. You see? And that's the Lord blessing him, man, for being patient, being humble, all right, not dealing with the situation, because he did get angry a couple times, right? But even though he was angry, he didn't go commit a sin, all right? He didn't deal, out of character or whatever, all right? He did the best to stay in the spirit, man, even though he was angry, because look what he was dealing with. Jacob separated those lambs from Laban's flock, and at mating time, he turned the flock to face Laban's animals that were streaked or black. This is how he built his own flock instead of increasing Laban's. Whenever the stronger females were ready to mate, Jacob would place the peeled branches in the one year. He caught on, didn't he? He caught on. Yeah, Jacob would place the peeled branches in the watering troughs in front of them. What I just say up above, though? Jacob, Yaikwal, supplanter at his best. You peel the branches in the watering trough. You place the peeled branches in the watering troughs in front of them. Then they would mate in front of the branches. But he didn't do this with the weaker ones. So the weaker lambs belonged to Laban, and the stronger ones were Jacob's. As a result, Jacob became very wealthy with large flocks of sheep and goats, female and male servants, and many camels and donkeys. And you gotta love it, man. You gotta love it, man. Hey, call Allah, your Allah, Yahweh Shah, man. You gotta love it, man. Let's go into the next chapter here. All right, it says Jacob flees from Laban, and I ain't check my ticker. I'm just, we just having a, a reading session here, man. Like I said, Lord will you be edified, you be exhorted, and you get the understanding of what's going on here. And if it's boring, then I'm sorry, man. It's just, it ain't gonna be for you, man. Jacob flees from Laban, because I think we done read like 3 or 4 chapters here. It might be like the 4th chapter. All right. Yeah, because I believe we started like 28. Yeah, so this is like the 4th chapter. But hey, let's get it, man. It says, but Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Jacob, and this is what you have to do. You have to get in the habit of reading for yourself. All right. 1 chapter a day is nothing. We're reading 4 chapters here. All right. Through the whole account of, well, not the whole entire life of Jacob, but a particular account, because there's different segments in his life. And we're reading one whole segment here through all of these chapters that we're reading. All right. So we're reading 4 chapters. So, I know you could read just one, to yourself, right? So it says, but Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Jacob has robbed our father of everything. All right. They got mad. All right. They don't even know about the deal because they weren't there. At least it was never said that they were there when they made the final deal, right? Or how they were going to separate the flocks. What was going to be Laban's, what was going to be Jacob. All right. But seeing it with their own eyes, they were just angry. Okay. All out of turn. But Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Jacob has robbed our father of everything, they say. He has gained all his wealth in our father's house at our father's expense, right? Man, butthurt. And Jacob began to notice a change in Laban's attitude toward him. Yeah, his sons were grumbling, and it probably got to him as well. All right, you like you Sammy say, you fracture, whatever, they all are angry, man. Then Yahweh said to Jacob, return to the land of your father and grandfather and to your relatives there, and I will be with you. All right. It says, so Jacob called Rachel and Leah out of the field where he was watching his flock. He said to them, I have noticed that your father's attitude toward me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. You know how hard I have worked for your father, but he has cheated me, changing my wages 10 times. All right. You see what was happening there? That's what we mentioned before. Okay. Jacob was doing right by Laban, but Laban kept cheating him, changing the wages. He's trying to keep him, prolong him there, to keep him working under him, because through that he was being blessed. He was basically misusing Jacob. All right. When Jacob was ready to go, he should have let Jacob go. Okay. But he wanted Jacob to stay around so he can continue to be wealthy. He grew enormously. We just read it. His wealth grew enormously, man. He just had a little bit before. He was all right before. But his wealth grew massively with Jacob around. But he still did Jacob dirty, man. It says, for if he said, the speckled animals will be your wages, the whole flock became to produce speckled young. And when he changed his mind and said, the striped animals will be your wages, then the whole flock produced striped young. See, that's the Lord working, man. All right? Getting a wicked ninja. Okay? In this way, God has taken your father's animals and given them to me. One time during the mating season, I had a dream and saw that the male goats mating with the females were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Then in my dream, the angel of God said to me, Jacob, and I replied, yes, here I am. The angel said, look up, and you will see that only the streaked, speckled, and spotted males are mating with the females of your flock. For I have seen how Laban has treated you. See, Lord was with him, just like he said, man. I am the God who appeared to you at Bayath Allah, at Bethel, the place where you anointed the pillar of stone and made your vow to me. Yeah, when he poured out that oil. No, it was a good sweet smell too. Now get ready and leave this country and return to the land of your birth. And when I say oil, we're not talking about some cooking oil, some Crisco or something like that, in case you're new. Now we're talking about, anointed oil, oil that has a sweet savor. All right. I still have, my last bottle that I made. I used frankincense, myrrh, and lavender. Goodness gracious, that lavender. And that lavender light up a room with that smell, that scent. All right. It's nice smelling oil. Okay. You put it on, the stove and, go through the whole, which is a second process. But I did the one, using the stove or whatever, the boiling process, you get your oil, you make it. All right. Anoint it, say that blessing over it. And then, you anoint that oil. And then every time you use it, you pray, your little anointing prayer. But we ain't talking about no daggone cooking oil or whatever. All right. Crisco and stuff. All right, Jacob ain't throwing no Crisco on a rock and say, this is to you, Lord. Nah, man. It says, Rachel and Leah responded, that's fine with us. We won't inherit any of our father's wealth anyway. He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women. And after he sold us, he wasted the money you paid him for us. All right. So he was just a wicked ninja, man, all the way. Even to his own daughters, he really didn't give two cares, man. So they were like, you know what? Hell yeah, let's roll out. We don't need to stay here. None of this is going to be ours. Anything that we're going to have is going to be under you. So hell yeah, let's move them out rawhide. All right. All the wealth God has given you from our Father legally belongs to us and our children. So go ahead and do whatever God has told you. All right. So and that shows that they even understood, even though their wealth was supposed to go to them. All right. Jacob, went through his process. The Lord dealt with him. And the wealth was pretty much transferred to Jacob. So they knew that they would, as long as they were with Jacob, they were still going to be okay. They didn't say, no. It was in my father's will here and this and that. Nah, man. They were okay. Like, nah, man. Father was dirty. Okay, we're your wives. We're going to roll out with you. And your wealth is basically going to benefit us. All right. The Lord blessed you. And as your wives, we're going to be okay. Let's roll. So Jacob put his wives and children on camels, and he drove all his livestock in front of him. He packed all the belongings he had acquired in Padan Aram and set out for the land of Canaan, where his father Isaac lived. At the time they left, Laban was some distance away, shearing his sheep, right? Pretty much, getting off the wool, cotton, however you want to put it, wool. Okay, shearing his sheep. Rachel stole her father's household idols and took them with her. Now, this goes to show you that Laban was an idol worshiper, because he mentions Yahweh, right, by name. But he was into multiple gods, all right, not just the God of heaven. He probably didn't even worship Yahweh. He probably knew of him, all right, knew, there's a certain power that laid in his name, right, but he was still an idol worshiper, okay? He had little idols, man. And we talk about this from time to time, little pocket-sized idols. And this is what happened here. Rachel stole her father's household idol and took them with her. Oh, idols, excuse me, plural. Idols, and took them with her. So you could have had multiple of the same idol or multiple different idols he was worshiping, right? Jacob outwitted Laban, the Aramean, for they set out secretly and never told Laban they were leaving. So Jacob took all his possessions with him and crossed the Euphrates River, heading for the hill country of Gilead. All right. And we mentioned a couple of those before. This is why I said, in your own time, man, pull up these places on the map, man. All right. See your forefathers' journey. Okay. You'll see exactly where he was on the map. All right. So it says Laban pursues Jacob. 3 days later, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he gathered a group of his relatives and set out in hot pursuit. He caught up with Jacob 7 days later in the hill country of Gilead. But the previous night, God had appeared to Laban, the Aramean, in a dream and told him, I am warning you, leave Jacob alone. Because he was hot. That boy was pissed. But he got a stern warning. I F you up. Yeah, be careful, right? Laban caught up with Jacob as he was camped in the hill country of Gilead. And he set up his camp because, why? Because the Lord was with Jacob, as he said, man. It says, and he set up his camp not far from Jacob's. What do you mean by deceiving me like this, man? Look, I mean, not man, but I got too modern day with it. What do you mean by deceiving me like this? Laban demanded. How dare you drag my daughters away like prisoners of war? Right, and that goes into the law as well. Okay, prisoners of war taking women. All right, having them shave their heads, pare their nails, and so on and so forth, mourning for 30 days, and then you go in and take it. All right, get the kitty and make her yours. Okay, make her your pretty much your concubine, because he's a heathen, so she'll never be your actual wife. Or she shouldn't be. And like wife, like an Israelite woman will be your wife, but she'd be your concubine. Anyways, why do you slip away secretly? Why did you deceive me? And why didn't you say you wanted to leave? I would have given you a farewell feast with singing and music accompanied by tambourines and harps. And that's what he says. He could have been telling the truth. Maybe he's just flabbergasting. Who knows? Why didn't you let me kiss my daughters and grandchildren and tell them goodbye? You acted very foolishly. I could destroy you. And the Lord just warned him, right? So if you think about it, he's still kind of talking some shit, but he's kind of holding back, right? As far as like putting his hands on him, because he's really still talking some cold hard smack right here, all right? But he says, "What? I could destroy you, but the God of your father appeared to me last night and warned me, leave Jacob alone. I can understand your feeling that you must go, and your intense longing for your father's home." But why have you stolen my gods? You see, them false gods, them idols he was worshiping. And he knew the name of the Yahweh. All right. It says, I rushed away because I was afraid. Jacob answered, I thought you would take your daughters from me by force. Yeah, because when you think about it, he's done them dirty enough times, right? Jacob's thinking, man, he might be dirty enough to go and take his daughters from me. I don't know. I don't trust this man, uncle or not. But as for your gods, see if you can find them, and let the person who has taken them die. And if you find anything else that belongs to you, identify it before all these relatives of yours, and I will give it back. But Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the household idols. And if this was a movie, one of the old movies, you would hear that music playing right now. Dun, dun, dun. This was a very deep situation right here. All right? Because it says Rachel took it secretly. Idols, plural. Okay? So check this out. It says Laban went first into Jacob's tent to search there, then into Leah's, and then the tents of the two servant wives. All right? Zilpah and Bilhah. Not sure if they had two separate tents or they had one in the same tent. Who knows? All right. But it says, but it does say tents. So they probably had two separate tents, right? Because tents weren't so big, all right? You think about, like teepees like the so-called Native Americans had. Not saying it's the exact same, but, tents. I mean, that's the tent, man. But anyways, so, check Jacob's tent, Leah's tent, Zilpah's tent, Bilhah's tent. It says what? But he found nothing. Finally, he went into Rachel's tent. All right. And ooh, beautiful. Ooh, because I think the apostle touched on this. Not this particular account, but I want to say it was Apostle Gabar. Okay. Talked about putting away your woman out the house. You notice here? Because these are women who had children. So you had the law of separation. And then you also had their period times. So they had separate tents, man. Because when these women were on their period, Jacob could not be in, like if he wanted some, maybe one was okay, but the other was on his period, on her period. He couldn't go and deal with her. Well, he can go and go get the other one, right? Maybe he go mess around with one of the concubines or something if both of them were on the period. You see? Ooh, beautiful, beautiful, right? Separate tents, man, because it was necessary. So at the necessary times, he could be separate from them because he'd be unclean. Ooh. Let's go. Let's continue though. Snapple fat. Let's get that little side note out of here. Keep going. But Rachel had taken the household idols and hidden them in her camel saddle. And now she was sitting on them, and forgive my sightedness, if that's a word. When Laban had thoroughly searched her tent without finding them, she said to her father, please, sir, forgive me if I don't get up for you. I'm having my monthly. This has been so long, I forgot this part was in here, man. I had my monthly period. So Laban continued his search, but he could not find the household idols. Then Jacob became she basically lied to him though. All right. It says, but then Jacob became very angry and he challenged Laban. What's my crime? He demanded. What have I done wrong to make you chase after me as though I were a criminal? You got to tell me something here, man. You accuse me of something, You're not finding anything. So we got to pause right here. You got to give me some answers, man. What's up, man? What's going on here? You got to tell me something, man. You have rummaged through everything I own. Now show me what you found that belongs to you, right? Stop tearing up my stuff and going, whatever you found that belongs to you, bring it forth. Show me. Where is it? Where's the evidence? Set it out here in front of us before our relatives for all to see. Let them judge between us. All right? See? Jacob's like, look, this is about to be court in session here, man. Because you tearing up. You're going through it tearing up Jack, but you ain't found nothing yet. You ain't saying nothing. You huffing and puffing and blowing smoke, but you ain't showing no evidence yet. So what's up? Let's go on. Let's finish this situation off, man. What's up? Verse 38. For 20 years I have been with you, caring for your flocks. And all and remember, man, that was 14 years of free labor. Crazy, right? So it was another 6 after that. For 20 years I have been with you, caring for your flocks. In all that time your sheep and goats never miscarried. In all those years I never used a single ram of yours for food. All right? So he provided his own food from whatever was his, man. He didn't take from Laban anyway. And Laban was blessed from him being there. It says, if any were attacked and killed by wild animals, I never showed you the carcass and asked you, to reduce the count of your flock. No, I took the loss myself. See? I took the loss. I gave one of mine to replace what you lost. You made me pay for every stolen animal, whether it was taken in broad daylight or in the dark of night. I worked for you through the scorching heat of the day and through cold and sleepless nights. Yes, for 20 years I slaved in your house. I worked for 14 years, earning your 2 daughters, and then 6 more years to your flock. Yeah, because it was 7 years for Rachel, but he was tricked and was given Leah. So it was another additional 7 years just to get Rachel, man. Okay. It says, and then 6 more years for your flock. And you changed my wages 10 times. Crazy, man. You gotta understand what Jacob was probably going through mentally. Okay? He's probably ready to just burst out in rage, man. But he didn't. It says, in fact, if the God of my father had not been on my side, the God of Abraham and the fearsome God of Isaac, you would have sent me away empty-handed. And that's probably facts too, man. Judging by what he's done to him, the 14 years and an additional 6 years, he probably would have, yeah, give me my daughters back. You're not getting any cattle. All right? You've done me wrong. Get away. Just all out demon, man. Okay? But the Lord was with Yaquah. Let's go. It says, you have sent me away empty-handed, but God has seen your abuse and my hard work. That is why he appeared to you last night and rebuked you. And I'm going to pause real quick right here for, just a couple of exhorting words there. For those of us that labor in this ministry, the scriptures talk about that, man. That your work is not in vain. This labor of love, it's not in vain, man. You do have a reward if you make it all the way to the end, man. Okay, there's a reward coming. You're not doing this for nothing, man. So don't ever think that, because I know sometimes, going through this life and, it can be hectic, especially having to spend time in the ministry as well as, in your everyday life. It can put a damper on you, man. But don't ever think that, what you do is in vain, even if nobody is viewing your videos, right? It's not in vain, man. Okay? Keep pushing. Jacob's treaty with Laban. Then Laban replied to Jacob, these women are my daughters. These children are my grandchildren. And these flocks are my flocks. In fact, everything you see is mine. But what can I do now about my daughters and their children? So come, let's make a covenant, you and I. Now, here's an official one. They made a little agreement then. Here's an official covenant. All right? And it will be a witness to our commitment. There you go. This is the real deal type of covenant. This right here, the Lord was, of course, watching before, but this is one that is saying that, all right, we're going to do this before the Lord, all right? So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a monument. Then, you see how it's different now from the old, I can't really say handshake, but you know what I'm saying? That first deal they made, you notice how they're going about it in a different way? Because it's different. This is a high level. When you see that word covenant thrown around, it's not just thrown around easily. This is high level now. This deal we're making right here, this is a pact here. Okay, or not a pact exactly, but this covenant here, all right, this is high level. This is a real deal. If any one of us break this, the Lord's got you. He gonna get you. All right. Then he told his family members, gather some stones. So they gathered the stones and piled them in a heap. Then Jacob and Laban sat down beside the pile of stones to eat a covenant meal. Look, so you see how high level this is? A covenant meal. To do what? Commemorate the event. Laban called the place Jegar Sahadutha. It probably reads different in the KJV, but we're in NLT, so we're not even going to worry about it right now anyways. It says, which means witness pile in Aramaic. And Jacob called it Galid, which means witness pile in Hebrew. So either way, okay, because remember, Laban was Aramean, okay? So in Aramaic, it was Jegar Sahadutha, I guess if I said it right, witness pile, all right? But Jacob named it the same thing, witness pile, but in the Hebrew, it's Galid. All right, follow me? So it says, then Laban declared, this pile of stones will stand as a witness to remind us of the covenant we have made today. This explains why it was called Galid, witness pile. There you go. Okay? A covenant is different from just some verbal handshake or deal or whatever. This right here, if you break this, there will be consequences. But it was also called Mizpah, which means watchtower. For Laban said, may Yahweh keep watch between us to make sure that we keep this covenant when we are out of each other's sight. You notice how when it's ever a covenant, the Lord is always around in these things, man. Covenants are very serious. If you make a covenant, it is very serious, man. You see? Dealing with us Israelites, man. Covenant, blood covenant at that. Super high, the highest of levels there. Blood covenant. And we broke it. And we got thrown into these curses, man. And look at us today. But let's continue. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you marry other wives, God will see it, even if no one else does. He is a witness to this covenant between us. See this pile of stones, Laban continued, and see this monument I have set between us. They stand between us as witnesses of our vows. I will never pass this pile of stones to harm you, and you must never pass these stones or this monument to harm me. All right, peace, okay? That's a peace treaty, a peace deal right there. I call on the God of our ancestors and the God of your grandfather, Abraham, and the God of my grandfather, Nahor, to serve as a judge between us. You notice how he didn't call on those false gods and idols, right? He called on Yahweh. It says to serve as a judge between us. So Jacob took an oath before the fearsome God of his father Isaac to respect the boundary line, because it's a very serious thing, enter into this covenant. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice to God there on the mountain and invited everyone to a covenant feast. After they had eaten, they spent the night on the mountain. Laban got up early the next morning and he kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home. All right, and that was the end of that particular chapter in Jacob's life dealing with Laban. Okay, a very stressful time period, you see. But what happened? Jacob came out on top, man. See, because he kept his patience, he kept his wits about himself. He remained humble, right? And he took the low. He got hit for 20 years straight, man. He took the low for 20 years straight, man, and still came out on top. Right, so we actually read through Genesis, I want to say 28 through 31, just dealing with this chapter of our forefather Jacob's life. But it was very good, reading there. Okay, something you probably should have read by now on your own. If you haven't, hey, we read it. Okay, but get in the habit of reading things for yourself, going to these scriptures for yourself, man. All right, you may not remember every account, but it's still at least good to read them. All right, because we don't have perfect memories. All right, and we'll leave it at that, man. Lord willing, that you were edified, you got something out of it, exhorted, comforted. We're gonna give all praises, honor, glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Rachak Wadash, double honors. Once again to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders, a great millstone, peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, whomever you may be, wherever you may be. To you I say Shalom, Yasharallah, Shalom.